Thank you for watching another episode of Stories Inside the Man Cave Podcast. And we are in the month of August, which means one thing. We are just days away from another football season, a paradise for many. And coming up next is an installment of Camp Hook'em Football. Yeah, it's August camp with the Texas Longhorns. And we'll get some insight from three of the best friends any guy could ask for who are connected to the Longhorn football program. Let's rock. All right, gentlemen, I love that you RSVP'd for the rave party. A little different music track there. You know, try to be different. I know Danny's enthused. Jeff Barker, just so everyone knows, media veteran, freshly retired. Danny's the only one with trusted credentials anymore. I mean, doesn't take away from Barker, but Danny, man, you don't age, my friend.
Well, that is a complete lie because, like you, my beard has plenty of white and like you, I no longer have hair up here. I don't know what you're talking about rave music because you and I are both too old to be going to a rave. I don't know about Barker down there. He's still kind of young. I mean, he can maybe pull it off, but he's got responsibilities at home now too. I think the three of us, our rave days are in our path.
Yeah, those days are definitely way behind me. But as you said, Clinch, excited to join you on the other side of being a sports fan. You know, 10 plus years in the sports media side, and now excited to enjoy the game from a bit of a different lens. Some of those angles that you showed in the intro there, beautifully well done there. Those look like fun. I'm excited to experience it from there, as fun as the sideline was for 10 years.
It is different, and I'll admit to both of you, it has taken 4 to 5 years out of the media to really understand what being a fan is, other than jumping on Twitter. And you guys, follow these guys. Danny Davis for sure does a phenomenal job for the Statesman and following the Longhorns, and he's done it for quite a while. And he's deeply connected to Austin, Texas, and of course the Montana Grizzlies. If you're a Montana State alum, you two probably not going to work. He is anti-Bozeman in a humorous kind of way.
First off, John, I don't think any Montana State alums listen or watch this podcast because your podcast only attracts attractive and smart viewers, and I don't know anyone at Montana State that falls in that category. So
well done, my friend.
The beauty of rivalries.
It is, and it is one of the most underrated rivalries in college football because I've kind of watched it from afar. So this is your camp #Hook'em Football team, if you will. Tyler Feldman also recently got out of the biz. He was at KView, and Mike Cards will be joining us. And you may have a surprise appearance from former Longhorn defensive tackle Stevie Lee. Hey, before we jump to it, definitely go follow our social media platforms. No need to list them all. You know which ones. There's so many of them. And each of the corners here support the business. These are all local businesses. Jim Saxton State Farm, Hargrove Roofing, know who's on your roof. Dirty Martin's, fantastic, iconic, original Austin venue, great food, great carbs. And then Honest Plumbing and Air, where a handshake still means something. All right, fellas, we'll start with Danny, go to Jeff. The annual preseason, I'll just say this. I'm not a fan of preseason award watch lists or even preseason polls, but we got to address it. Texas will start number 4 in the preseason coaches poll. Danny, what were your thoughts? I mean, we could probably take what you said last year or what many media members say. It's just preseason.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I think if you look at Texas, that's a team that made the college football playoffs when there was a 4-team playoff last year, and they brought back a good chunk of that talent. I don't think it should be a surprise that they're number 4 in the poll. They Steve Sarkisian and his coaching staff mostly intact. Your third string starting quarterback and a lot of talented players. Obviously, they lost a lot of people to draft, but that's not surprising. Whenever we talk to Steve next this week and someone brings up this coaches poll or the AP poll, whenever that's released, and Texas is a top 5 team in that poll as well, he's going to say the same thing, that, that's for you guys, that's for the fans. We're not paying attention to that. No one in my locker room is talking about those polls, although that's, probably a bunch of, I'm sure there's some talk and some bragging among the players, but, Texas has a chance to prove they're a top 4 team. They're probably actually insulted they're number 4. I'm sure there's a lot of people in that locker room who think they should be number 1. So the polls, it gives us stuff to talk about. Obviously, it gives kind of a starting point as we try to figure out and map out the season and, try to decide which one of those early games are the game of the year or whatnot. But at the end of the day, as the cliche goes, in January is when the real ranking matters, around January 21st.
Right.
Post-championship game poll gets released.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of the times of where this program's come from over the last 10 years and now where they're at. As Danny mentioned, bringing back a third-year starting quarterback, all in Sark's system, obviously, in Quinn Ewers, coming off of a college football playoff season, so close to playing in the national championship game. But it is a sign of the times because Texas is number 4. And like you said, I mean, I don't think anyone would argue. Like, if they were number 1, no one would have been like, wow, that's outrageous. Where what we're used to is, what do you mean this Texas team is ranked number 9 in the country? Or I can't remember them off the top of my head as some of the years, before they got back to this point where they were, given a ranking based on, probably wanting to create chatter or just the brand itself. They were given that ranking pretty much not at all based off of what happened on the field the previous year or even what they brought back. It was all just the classic Texas hype train. And now the Texas hype train's back, but at least it's well-deserved. And, that number 4 ranking is definitely warranted. And also one more thing on that, I really think it matters even less than it did before, because it's not like you're playing for 4 spots now.
Right.
I mean, you could lose a game or 2. You could move up and down the rankings more and just be one of those 12 teams selected by the committee. And, great. This isn't the BCS era where it's like, oh, we started at 23. And if we want any chance to finish as 1 or 2, like, we got a long way to go. It's like, no, it doesn't matter. Like, you'll have time to prove it on the field. And, 12 teams are getting in. So that changes things a lot.
That's a great point. And I think anytime you have a quarterback who's third year in the system, you're going to get that respect. And the defense, even though they have some things to improve, and I think top 5 is warranted for them to start the year. And speaking of the defense, they're replacing the interior of the defensive line. You have Tavondre, and both of them, the guys that they lost to the interior defensive tackles. Danny, when we're also talking about Byron Murphy, who obviously was thought more highly of, but both of them, he and Tavondre, are going to make names for themselves in the NFL. Are those guys you can replace, or do they have guys who may be coming into their own?
I mean, it's going to be tough to replace a first-round draft pick and a second-round draft pick, the Outland Award winner, the Big 12 Defensive Lineman of the Year. 2 guys who led the number 3 rushing defense. I mean, it'd be tough just to say you can replace that, but Texas has depth. I mean, that's something they've been really preaching over the past couple of years, and they developed it. I mean, people forget Tavondre Sweat was not. I don't think in any of our camp shows last year, even with Stevie on there, who knows a little bit about the trenches, I don't think any of us mentioned Tavondre last year. Byron had a little bit of hype because he had done some things in previous years, but no one thought Tavondre Sweat was going to be what he was, and obviously he emerged in his 5th year. So if you're a Texas fan, you're hoping Alfred Collins does the same thing. You're hoping Vernon Broughton does the same thing. And then they attacked the portal. They brought in 3 defensive tackle type players who we've been seeing Bill Norton at practice, the Arizona transfer, and it's hilarious because he's wearing number 15 and he is built like a house. And so they have some depth behind them. They have some young guys there high on, Aaron Bryant, Jeray Bledsoe, some guys like that. So they have some depth. Now, is it going to be Tavondre and Byron? I mean, only time will tell. The stats are probably going to look a little different, but maybe those guys make that leap this year too. And we're talking about those guys like we talked about Tavondre and Byron last year, or Keandre and Morrow the year before, who kind of made late leaps in their career. So who knows? That's a lot of words to say I don't know.
Oh, Danny stole my point there, because I think it's a fantastic point about T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy, that those guys, they were not locks to be a first-round pick, an early second-round pick like T'Vondre was. I mean, Danny, you did mention Byron Murphy, but I feel like the chatter around him was all like, we need to wait and see it. Like, we're waiting to see it. Like, there were like whispers and people even saying, like a baby Aaron Donald, just because he kind of had that like build. And we were all going like, okay, when are we going to see it? And he finally got that opportunity to show it. To be fair, he had some really good players, some NFL guys in the trenches playing in front of him, and Keandre Coburn and Moro Ojimo the year before that. But then when he got his chance, and same with T'Vondre Sweat, they showed how much the development has come a long way in this program for Texas. And you hope that, Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins can be those guys. And I mean, we feel like we've kind of been talking about Alfred Collins in similar ways that we talked about Byron Murphy, of like, we're just waiting to see it. We're waiting. We've seen flashes. We're waiting to see that consistency. So hopefully Texas gets that this year. And, again, as Danny mentioned, the depth and going out and getting Bill Norton and Tia Savea, well, you can now at least sleep well at night if you're Sark and the staff saying, okay, if we don't get that at least similar type development, even if it's unfair to hold Broughton and Collins to the level of Sweat and Murphy last year, we have guys that we trust that are experienced and can get it done at that position. So beauty of the portal there, when you're a place like Texas, you can say, hey, come in. You're that one kind of important. Yeah, that helps too. But you have that at your disposal to come in and say, hey, help us fill a couple gaps here and there and add some depth.
I love
make
how
some cash while you're doing it. And maybe you're Isaiah Bond, you transfer in, you get to drive a Lambo.
It's amazing that we're adapting, and this is how it's going to be from now on. And I love the pronunciation, the correction for everybody. Tia Savea. I like how is he Tongan? Is that what it?
I don't know. I'm just going off of what that's how Sark says his name. So
hey,
that's how I say it then.
We need the phonetics more often from Coach Sark. But, you guys mentioned it. You both said it. There are guys who have been in the program 4 and sometimes 5 and 6 years now, and it helps with NIL. But the guy you mentioned, Alfred Collins, we all honestly followed him when he was at Cedar Creek High School in Bastrop, and the son of a former Texas women's basketball star. But he was asked about that in one of your media availabilities, Danny, about following or being inspired by T'Vondre, and even one of his counterparts on the other side of the line talked about Alfred and his development.
It only takes a year, man, like just locking in and being focused on the craft of hand. So I want to follow his footsteps.
I'd say he's stepped up so big with Byron and T. Sweat leaving. He's done a great job just setting the example for the D-line, setting the standard, and just being vocal when things aren't, up to that standard. So he's done a great job. And then also just on the field, on play, I love going against Alfred because he tests me every day.
So maturity, Danny, Jeff, you cannot substitute maturity and experience, because you can have an extremely talented young guy, but those reps at that level and maturity, you cannot sub those unless you've seen it.
And I think it's good to have examples of guys like that within your program where, it's okay if you come as a highly touted recruit like Alfred Collins was, or Murphy, Sweat, those guys, and you're not start as a freshman and then leave after 3 years and go straight to the NFL and be a top 10 pick or a first round pick. So I think those examples are important for Sark and in recruiting when he's showing that, hey, you can come in here and we can develop you. So that maturity, you hope will bode well for Texas on Saturdays in the fall.
Sorry, I was on mute.
Right.
I mean, mature. I mean, obviously, talent kind of overrides everything. But you do hope that maturity and a lot of these guys having the multiple reps and lots of years in the system and time to grow and develop. I mean, that's back in our day. I mean, it's a different sport. But I mean, we're used to growing up at an age where college basketball championships were won by teams with like 4th-year seniors and veteran backcourts and stuff like that. And maybe that's what it's going to be like in college football now. And maybe the COVID years are about to be a thing of the past. But maybe Texas can start to, take advantage. Did it last year, can possibly do it this year. Just having these 4 or 5 year guys who've been in the system, know what they're doing, and this is with NIL, this is kind of a job for everyone. People are picking up their pails and going to work, and treating it as such.
And then, the SEC, these guys, these younger guys, you will grow up fast if you're on the interior line. You have to. That's where SEC is so different from every other league across the country. Now, one key component is the development of Anthony Hill. And he was talking about what he expects after having such a great and phenomenal freshman season.
I feel like it's not going to be more. It's going to be more of a sample size of what I was doing last year, because I feel like they had me in a lot of different positions where sometimes I kind of was just learning what's going on. I feel like this year I know what's going on, and I kind of understand what I'm doing, so I feel like it's just going to be more of a step up from what I had last year.
So start with you, Jeff. I mean, when you that guy, you can move him all over the field. Super athlete. Smart, and he's one of those studs that will probably be a day one pick in the NFL if things work out, if the go as expected. I mean, what do you see out of this guy?
I mean, I love that kid. Like, even his answers and media availabilities too. Like, he's just awesome. I love the way he played. Like what he talked about, just kind of hair on fire, throw me wherever, like see ball, get ball. I love his maturity now that we've already seen in terms of, okay, now it's my turn to be a leader. Jalen Ford off to the NFL, other guys off to the NFL. Now it's my turn to be a leader and really develop my game and take that next step. And he seems to totally take that head on. And as much as I just said about Alfred Collins and some of those other guys, that it's okay to have examples like that in your program of, it's fine if you don't come in immediately and, be 3 years and off to the NFL and an All-American. But it is also nice to have a couple guys like that, like Anthony Hill, where you're like, all right, I'm pretty damn sure that barring something, injury-wise, that dude is going to leave after next year when he's a junior and he's going to be a first-round pick. That also helps a lot in recruiting as well when you're sending guys to the NFL that quickly. And Anthony Hill, to me, is one of those guys. I mean, I think everybody expects a massive year from him. And I like what I've at least, heard from him and seen little bits of in practice so far.
Yeah, I mean, dude rocks. I mean, he came on. He didn't play like a freshman last year. I mean, his second game was the Alabama game where he played like his hair was on fire. Played well throughout the season. He told us this past weekend that he thought his best game was the Oklahoma State game, the Big 12 championship game. Led the team in tackles, had a forced fumble. And so you just expect him to build off that. And maybe now that he's kind of shifting towards the middle and his natural position, maybe he'll, and as he continues to grow, I think Texas fans should only expect more from him this year and possibly next year if it's his last year here at Texas. And he's a big Seahawks fan, so maybe he'll get drafted by the.
I saw that interview. That's hilarious.
But he has contagious positive energy, and he's one of those guys that just freaking loves football, man. And you need guys like that on your team that are your best players and also have contagious positive energy and are good leaders. And he just seems to be one of those guys that checks every box.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. If there was a 6-star, that guy would get it if out of high school. One stat that it all ties together. The DTs, the development of DTs and the linebackers and Anthony Hill. I mean, this stat right here. Now, Danny, correct me if I'm wrong, but last year's defense with the guys they lost and the majority of these guys who are coming back, they only allow 2.9 yards per carry. I know the windows of time that you guys get to see for media availability, it's not much. It's usually good calisthenics, championship level calisthenics. But do you see this defense not only improving in certain areas, or can they maintain a stat like that?
They're not going to allow less than 3 yards a carry again this season. I just don't see that. That was a otherworldly performance last year. And what people also forget is they allowed a lot of passing yards last year too. And that probably had something to do with, they were also good against the run, but teams just also quit running it against them because they knew they could pass against them. they knew their front and their run defense was tough to go out, so they just quit trying. And we'll see with the talent they lost, and maybe teams kind of adjusting. Texas, I think, is a little bit confident that they can get those passing numbers down on their defense. So maybe that goes down a little bit, and the rushing yards goes up a little bit. But as a net, it is even better. I mean, that's very possible too. But I just don't see that rushing defense numbers being as good as it was last year because of the talent they lost, and B, I think opposing offenses are going to scheme them a little differently this year. But who knows? I mean, they obviously played very well against some very talented running backs last year, so we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I think that's probably an unrealistic goal to set, to allow less than 3 yards a carry again, especially your first year in the SEC there. But I mean, kind of a little bit what Danny alluded to. You hope that if that was your clear and obvious strength last year, that you hope that, maybe those strengths move around to other places where they struggled last year, most notably in the secondary, but also staying on the defensive line at the edge position too. I think it's pretty fair to assume that Texas is going to be significantly better at edge rusher this year. You bring in Trey Moore from UTSA. He's a proven guy. He has really done it every, game in and game out at the Power 5 level. That dude can do it. Barron Sorrell back, Ethan Burke, and then we just mentioned Anthony Hill. Like, he's a guy that even if he moves around and plays, different kind of spots and they use him in different ways, he's going to rush the passer a decent amount. So you at least hope that, hey, we're not going to hold teams under 3 yards per carry all season, but hopefully we're getting more consistent pressure on the quarterback, getting to the quarterback and bringing him to the ground. And then on top of that, you expect the secondary to be better than they were last year.
That's the key. Because we saw some guys leave the program who started in the secondary last year, who transferred out. Jaron Thompson, and I think there were 3 total. Danny, is that right? 3 DBs who transferred out?
There's Jaron Thompson and Terrence Brooks for the starters.
Keaton Crawford. Okay. Oh, again, Crawford wasn't a starter, but a contributor.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. So, yeah, you're right. 2 starters from UT secondary last year transferred out. But if we switch sides to the other side of the ball, I mean, it's no secret UT has produced great running backs, but I don't know of a talent depth like this since, God, I'm trying really to think about it. Maybe the 96 season when they had Ricky, Priest Holmes, and there were another running back who phenomenal. But now you look at these guys now with Baxter and Jaydon Blue. We'll start with you, Danny. When you think about these guys,
I got to step in. 2 years ago, they had 2 running backs that got drafted within the first 4 rounds.
That's true. What about
running back
John and Roshan?
So they've had depth. Keelan was on that team 2 years ago too. So
that's right. Got it. Short-term memory is awful. My mind is stuck in the 90s.
It's the day job.
Yeah, it's the day job.
But to go off your broader point, I mean, yeah, they have a lot of talented in depth in that running back room, and obviously Tashard Choice is he's hailed as a coach for a reason. CJ Baxter was tabbed to be the starter last year until he got injured early on, and Jonathan Brooks kind of exploded. He's back as a sophomore now. Jaydon Blue kind of showed what he could do late. That's a good 1-2 punch. It'll be interesting to see if Steve kind of leans on one of them, or if this is a committee backfield, or if one of them kind of grabs the job and runs away with it. And then they have guys behind him, like Christian Clark's a freshman they have high hopes for. Jarek Gibson's a freshman that Steve praised in media availability today. So they have some freshmen behind those big 2. And, I think a lot of people expect a lot from CJ Baxter, and, Jaydon Blue, there's things he can provide this offense too. So they'll be fine. I mean, we saw them be fine down the stretch last season after Jonathan got hurt, and now those guys are older and have more experience under their belt. So the run game is not going to be a weakness for this team. That's for sure. And, Quinn can scoot too if he needs to. Maybe not running the option or whatever, but he can scoot if he needs to.
And we witnessed it. I don't know why I question his ability, but Barker, I mean, you've seen it. It's replenished every year in the RB room.
Yeah, and CJ Baxter, he's another one of those guys that we just talked about with Anthony Hill, Anthony Hill, like a young guy who's just really buttoned up, like really mature. I remember I interviewed him before. It was at Bijan Robinson's draft watch party. Obviously, Bijan was at the draft, but it was all the Austin folks out here. And CJ was there, and interviewing him and talking to him, I was like, am I talking to a 17-year-old right now or a 27-year-old? Like, he was just very buttoned up in a good way. And not that should even be the expectation for every 17-year-old coming into college. But I think his maturity is huge. Obviously, we know what he can do on the field. Jaydon Blue, loved that he got to show what he can do last year, because I'd kind of been hoping that we'd get to see more from him. But obviously, with the guys that you had before that, Jonathan Brooks off the NFL, the two guys that the two no names that Danny mentioned that are in the NFL now, Bijan and Roshan. No, kidding, obviously. But no, I think one other comment on the running game too. This is probably true at a lot of positions, but especially at running back, where these guys are going to take so many hits throughout the course of the year. If Texas is going to achieve the goals that they have for themselves this year that are realistic, playing for an SEC championship, playing multiple college football games, maybe winning a national championship, you're going to have to play anywhere between 15 to 17 games, depending on how it plays out, whether or not you get a first round bye, whether or not you make it all the way, whether you play a conference championship game. So depth at a physical position like that is going to be more important than ever. So I think for Texas to have Baxter and Blue, two guys that you've seen do it and you can trust, will be huge.
It's significant. And you guys both mentioned it. And so, CJ, just to get an example, if you guys have not really paid attention, or anyone, listen to this interview talking about how close he and Jaydon are, not only together, but he just went on and on about all of the running backs.
I genuinely think that it's helping us on the field. But not only me and Jaydon, but the other guys, Trey Wisner, Jared Gibson, Christian Clark, even the walk-ons, Colin Page, we feel like we all in there together. No one is greater than the other.
So
Anderson High legend Colin Page.
Shout out to Colin Page, Anderson Trojan for life, baby. That guy could scoot too. But yeah, that's a good RB room. But when you hear it exudes leadership. And maybe I'm reading too much into it because I'm not around like I used to be. But Danny, both of you, honestly, you see what's real and what's not when it comes to a true leadership qualities of a young guy.
I'm not going to take too much into that soundbite we just played, just because, what else is he going to say? We hate each other. This room sucks. I can't stand these guys. But, from everything we've heard and, from the players and seen from how they react on the field to, practices and social media accounts, it starts from up top with Tashard Choice. And it seems like those guys follow his lead. And this is a decently close-knit group that, wants to win, wants to succeed. And they don't mind, sharing the load. They don't mind if, they have to split it up a little bit and they're not getting 95% of the carries. We didn't even mention Trey Wisner, who's got a lot of plays, from coaches the last year or so for what he's been doing on special teams. So, those are five guys. You want to throw Colin Page in there because you need some Anderson love before the Taco Shack Bowl and another probably win for the Trojans because the Knights are struggling to get it together these past couple of years. But I think it starts from up top, but obviously when someone as successful as CJ, who's as mature as CJ, is kind of the loudest voice in the room, that's also very, very helpful.
Yeah, that's pretty significant. And Tashard Choice would love to just shadow him for a day and that energy. And he's got that swagger and those kids love him. So for all of us, all of you watching or listening, and for Danny Davis and Jeff Barker and myself, we're entering a new era. We're going to see new traditions, true football cities, everything. All right, there was a little dramatic change there. That's what we call a transition. So, Barker, we'll begin with you. Which team is everyone sleeping on in the SEC, in your opinion?
This is probably a bad answer because I don't think that I'll give you two, because I was going to say Ole Miss, but like no one's really sleeping on Ole Miss. I feel like because of Lane, they get talked about quite a bit. And then obviously when you have, Jackson Dart coming back and quite a bit of talent that they have, I just think, again, maybe not sleeping on them, but who knows? I'll give you my second one, which definitely won't be popular. I think it could be the Aggies.
Yep.
Just because the expectation is so low, in Mike Elko's first season with what they're coming off of, Jimbo Fisher, getting sent packing. I think the bar is going to be really low, but you feel like they'll be pretty good defensively with Mike Elko. There's still a decent amount of talent there. And then have a quarterback like Connor Wigman. They've got some talent at receiver too. Like you kind of just start to go down their roster and you say, all right, well, are they going to win 10 or 11 games? No. But could they be a 7 or an 8 win team that pulls a big upset at some point during the year? You hope not in late November when the Longhorns are in town. That wouldn't totally surprise me. So I'll go, my bad answer was Ole Miss and my maybe better answer, A&M.
How about you?
When I submitted my preseason poll, which Jeff, you no longer have to do, which is when I get out of the business, that's going to be the thing I miss the least about this industry's preseason polls. But I was
It's feeling like the first time you do it.
I was a lot higher on Oklahoma than most were, and a lot lower on Tennessee than a lot were. So I think Oklahoma is kind of getting this sneak into the SEC behind all this Texas hype, and no one's really thinking about them. But this is a decent team. If you're a Sooner fan, you've hopefully kind of learned from some of the mistakes, last couple of years. In Brent Venables' first couple seasons with the team. And then, I think Jackson Arnold's a fine young quarterback. They have some good guys coming back on defense. So I like the Sooner team. I'm not picking them to make the championship game, but I think they're a top 4 team in this conference, not, top 7 or 8 as they are being predicted in many polls.
It's hard for me because I'm going back and forth between OU and A&M. I really do. OU, I mean, if I remember right, they did win 10 games last year. I think 10-3.
It's all that matters. They went to the worst bowl game in the country, so that's
the Alamo Bowl. That's right. No more trips to San Antonio. We were about to break a record for the mileage going to San Antonio for the number of Alamo Bowl trips we all experienced. So, which team? And I'll start with this one. Which team on UT's schedule will be tougher than most expect? I'm going to say Kentucky.
Stole mine.
Oh, Stoops coaching against Texas may be a fact.
I don't even know if it's that for me. I think it's just like the respect that I have for what Stoops has done at Kentucky. Like they're just always solid. They're always a hard-nosed team that you don't want to play. So yeah, if there's one game that I think will be tougher than people expect, it'll be that one. The other one I was going back and forth between was maybe Mississippi State, just because similar to A&M, I think the bar could be so low for them. But, a Levy offense, if you don't come ready to, play some 7-on-7 defense in the secondary, then it could be a long day and it could get tricky.
Yeah. How about you, Danny?
Arkansas is terrible, and they are going to be terrible. But the answer is Arkansas, because Texas has to go there. They have to go to Fayetteville, and any Texas fan that made that trip or any player who was on that team in 2021 remembers how insane that place was. And granted, that was a night game. They play at 11 in November when they go this year, but that just means the Razorback fans are going to start drinking at 4 o'clock in the morning. That place is going to be loud.
Why are they going to wait so long?
It is, we're used to hearing Texas people say we're everyone's Super Bowl and it kind of being a cliche, but this is literally going to be Arkansas Super Bowl. And I'm sure those players are being told about that game now. And, Texas is going to be more talented than them, but if they get caught slipping, Texas fans are not going to hear the end of it. And so I think the Arkansas game is easily that's a game Texas should win 49-0, but it could be a game they lose and the town of Fayetteville burns to the ground in celebration. game gets over.
That's the most disrespected I have ever felt in my life 3 years ago in Fayetteville. Of course, I was sitting with some family who were season ticket holders in the middle, 50-yard line, the only one with any burnt orange. I was abused the time I walked into the stadium, to the restroom, beer thrown at me. They do hate Texas more than they like themselves. 100%.
It's funny what Steve said that at media days, and they asked Sam Pittman a couple days later, and he's like, "Yeah, that sounds about right. Not gonna disagree with that statement."
Last, but this will be fun. Top 3 SEC venues you two are looking forward to visiting.
Well, I'm still upset about losing the LSU trip in 2020.
Yeah.
So that will be fun when and if Texas ever gets to go there. I heard enough about, Tennessee and Ole Miss and kind of scenes there. So I'd like to check out one of those two. And then, you know what? College Station 2 days after Thanksgiving this year is going to be a sight. And I'm lucky that I'm a member of the media and I don't have to pay $600 for a ticket to get into there, because that place is going to be insane. It's going to be loud. It's going to be maybe one of the craziest experiences I've ever got to experience in this job. I think I'm looking forward to that game more than I'm looking forward to Michigan, even though that's going to be a cool atmosphere to witness and get to go to. So I've been to a game at Kyle Field before. I like the Aggies. I like their traditions. I think they're cool. I think they're quirky, they're weird, but it's cool. And I'm ready to see that with Texas in town and just the insaneness of renewing that rivalry a couple of days after Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
right.
I've been to a couple games in College Station, so I've seen what it's all about. And I've seen it when, pretty much every game is packed there and loud as hell. I know for a fact I've never seen anything like what it's going to be that game when Texas comes to town, as Danny was mentioning. I'll say, as a recently retired sports media member now, that's going to be the one game, maybe Michigan a little bit, that gives me serious FOMO. The rest of the game, even Georgia, I've been to big games at DKR. I know the Georgia game, that'll be different. That game in College Station will be crazy. But to answer the question, I'll go, since I was in SEC country in Mississippi for 3 years, I got to go to quite a few stadiums. So I'll go with the ones couple that I haven't been to that I really want to go to. Want to go to a game in the Swamp. Want to go to a game at Rocky Top in Knoxville. And where else? I would say those are probably the two that I haven't been to where I'm I really, really want to go to a game. Maybe Georgia, game in Athens.
Great place.
But I've been to pretty much every other big-time SEC venue, with all due respect to South Carolina or Vanderbilt.
Well, I've been to Kyle Field, and I will still say it is the loudest college football stadium in America, 100%. But I want to go to Baton Rouge for LSU, Knoxville for Tennessee, and I know this sounds weird, but I've seen the videos. I definitely want to go to a Gamecock game in South Carolina. They have a good pregame production, but I have heard the fans are very passionate there. So I definitely want to go check that out at some point. So we're going to make a transition to some former Longhorns.
I can't be more thankful for a mom like you, and everyone in the world already know you're a special one to me. And I just want to say I love you. I love you. I love you. And I have no words, none at all. And I just want to thank you for everything you've done.
How about that, guys? Tavondre, we all know him. He has great personality, great character guy. His mom raised 3 kids, and I think in Huntsville, but he got his mama her dream home on his rookie bonus. And start with you, Danny, man. It's the total feel-good story, 100%.
Yeah, take care of your number one fan. That's I don't think any of us are going to see that video and have anything negative to say about it. It's sweet. Obviously, I think people forget a lot how much these parents and families sacrifice to make sure that their kids make it to the highest of highs. I think my favorite part of the Olympics is not so much the competitions, but seeing the parents and the families going crazy in the stands because it's a dream for them too. So it's nice that Tavondre is being able to take care of his mom and give her something that I'm sure she will appreciate and has been wanting. And that was awesome to see. I was happy that he hooked his mom up like that.
Yeah, those videos are always awesome and never get old. That's why I love draft day so much. I mean, I'll watch the entire draft, even all those days, because you see the moments with, families at the draft, all the hugs, like families in the living room, everyone getting emotional, and you just realize what it means. I mean, people's lives change when they hear their name called like that. And I know it sounds cliche after a while, and there's 200 something guys drafted every year, but it really is true. I mean, and you see it right there. So that was really cool to see Tavondre be able to pay it back forward, because I know I read a little bit of the Titans write-up that they had on their website, and they talked about, details of her working 3 jobs at a time and still somehow never missing a game, still somehow providing for not just Tavondre, but, her entire family, her other 2 sons as well. So, yeah, really cool to see that, he's able to, repay it, for lack of a better phrase.
Yeah, we all want to do something for our mamas. There's no doubt about it. Colin Johnson's a receiver that uber talented, was highly recruited out of California. Tom Herman recruited him, or Charlie and Tom. And he's just one of those guys where it's a fine line of distinct difference in the NFL between injuries and being a player with a long career. And this past weekend in a preseason game, he's healthy and really had a great game, a couple of touchdowns. This was Colin Johnson after the game, clearly humbled by how things just haven't worked because of injuries.
Super emotional in the locker room because I've had such a long journey. It's my first time getting in the end zone since 2020. I had to sit out a whole year in 2022 after I tore my Achilles. And I just kind of been through on the injury bug a little bit. But I never stopped working. I never stopped keeping the faith. And I'm just going to build off this and keep working. And everything I do, my goal is to give God glory.
You love to see it. I always thought the guy was humble already, but a great guy. He's just never had a fair shake, Danny, because of injuries.
Yeah, injuries are an unfortunate part of the game. And Colin, I think he's a 5th-round draft pick, so he already kind of had an uphill battle to fight to try to stick. But at the same time, this is his 4th NFL season. So he's stuck around the league. Teams are giving him chances. There's obviously some talent that they see there, and it didn't work out in Jacksonville. It kind of seemed like it was going to work out in New York before he got hurt. And let's see if this happens in Chicago. Obviously, the Bears have some depth in their receiving room, so maybe it ends up Colin doesn't make the team and he catches on somewhere else that has less depth. But if he plays like he played in that Hall of Fame game, someone's going to give him a chance, and maybe he can be healthy and become a contributor and kind of be that guy we saw at Texas and before all the injuries.
Yeah, whether it's media, fans, anybody, I think we get a little bit numb to the injury news, and it's not that we don't ever feel bad for guys, but I think we do get a little bit numb to that, and then guys getting cut, and you have to break it down in certain cases and realize there's a human being behind this who has to deal with this. And, whether if they're getting cut, it's okay, well, that's their entire dream. For most of these guys, it's the biggest identifier for them most of their lives has been, I'm an awesome football player. It doesn't mean that, they aren't great guys, great students, great at something else, but it's this is what they've been building up to their entire life. So it's just cool to see a guy have a determination and motivation like that to just keep getting up off the mat, because it is difficult. I've wasn't fortunate enough to ever play in the NFL or anything, but I can only imagine that's your dream, all that you put in, the physicality, the mental side of it, the sacrifices that everybody makes. And then it's just snap your finger and you get cut and hope you get another opportunity. Yeah. And just, the doubt that could creep in and all the different things you have to battle. So props to him for continuing to grind it out and just give himself as many opportunities as possible.
I think everybody's a fan of Colin, no doubt about it. Maybe you're a fan of this news segment. caption that pick. How about this? You guys ready to go to the Iowa State Fair? What's the caption here, Danny?
The caption is, "I still have a job in media, and I will pass." So that's my caption.
I think the caption is, "Excuse me, what?"
What?
Back to the drawing board might be the caption.
I mean, surely I still have a hard time believing this was the chosen one from the marketing firm.
What's not surprising is that you chose it for this segment. That's not surprising.
Hey, man, tell me something good.
Hey, we got to end on something positive, and that is will not cause anyone to lose their job for any comments on a photo that pops up on a podcast. Tell you what, Danny, tell me something good. We always see negativity, but there's, I think, far more positive things going on in this world.
I mean, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the world, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. But I would, this is always an exciting time of the year, especially the job I'm still in, the job y'all formerly worked as football fans, as residents of the state that loves the sport of football. I mean, August is a great time. All the high schools are practicing now. The second half of the high school wave started this morning. Texas has been in for a couple of weeks now, and a couple of days now, and we're only a couple of weeks away from the Taco Shack Bowl. We're only a couple of weeks away from the Colorado State game. The football season is here, and that's obviously something that means a lot to a lot of people, whether you just love watching the game or covering the game or playing the game. So I think if we're going to be talking about something good, we all love football. Football's coming back, and we can all start preparing for our fantasy drafts and seasons, whether you root for Texas or Montana or Stephen F. Austin. I don't know why you still have faith in the Jacks, but it is what it is, and this is always an exciting time, just the anticipation to the season. And when I'm a Browns fan, the Browns start 0-2, and I'm going to hate everyone. But for now it's awesome.
And Danny thinks it's bad as a Browns fan. I'll tell you something good. The Raiders are undefeated right now. All right? All of our football teams are undefeated. No, but I agree with what Danny said. Going off that, I was just going to say, like last Thursday night, I know it was the Hall of Fame game. I know it was preseason. I know there was a weather delay. They ended the game early. There was still football on our televisions, and that's always a great sign. I mean, there's all these mile markers on the way back to football season once basketball and baseball end, and it's no offense to the other sports. Like, I personally watch a ton of golf. I love the summer. I'll watch a ton of golf. When the Olympics are around, I love watching the Olympics, watch a little baseball. But there's nothing like when you get that first taste of football. You jump on a first podcast like this. It's starting to go around the water cooler at work. As Danny said, people are starting to get their fantasy football leagues ready, their pick leagues ready. And there's just so much hope. Like, in my case now, like personally, something good. Yeah, I'm out of the sports media game right now, but it's like I get to enjoy football with my family now in a different way. You talk about the Anderson Trojans and the Taco Shack Bowl. Come out and see the Hutto Hippos. Yeah. No idea if we're going to be any good this year. But you know what? I'm going to enjoy some Hutto Hippo football games. I'm going to enjoy football season a different way. I might tailgate with Sean Clinch.
Come on, baby. Let's go. And Danny can come by before he goes up to Belmont.
Yeah, we might send Danny Davis a picture of our frosty beverages while he's in his tidy suit heading up the elevator to the AC.
He does dress well on game day. I've never told him that. He does a phenomenal job.
I'm not dressed up nearly as well as those KV boys. They're got it going down.
I don't know how they do that in the heat. Polo and shorts for me when I was on the field during September football games.
Yes. Very So and it sometimes lasted into third week of October. But I'll tell you something good, guys. That was all. You guys nailed it. I'll say this. I'll tell you something good. I'm not emotionally invested into the Dallas Cowboys anymore. I'm a fan, but I'm not going to allow myself to be emotionally invested.
Okay.
And secondly,
okay. Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
We've heard that before.
Yes, right. We have. But I didn't mean it last time. I do now.
Wait till they start 4-0.
4-0, then it's reeling us back in.
He'll start making Super Bowl weekend plans.
As soon as CD signs, he'll be back.
And then Dak's around for 6 more years.
At what, $420 million a year?
Unbelievable.
Anyway, sorry, this was supposed to be something good.
No, it is good. That is good. The lack of emotional investment.
You're letting go. We're proud of you.
The fact that the Olympics, I'm starting to see a country come together a little bit. And you got to love Flavor Flav and Snoop Dogg, a new flavor, if you will, or flavor in the Olympics. It's been fantastic. And I'm starting to see a lot of people come together and just cut out the political strife that's going on. That's what's good, in my opinion.
Look, if there's one thing us Americans can agree on, it's hating on other countries. And so dunking on everyone in our side. So, we're all rooting for whoever stuff's on the block, except for, we got to root a little bit for Julian Alfred, even though she's was repping St. Lucia. That was awesome to see a Texas grad become the fastest woman in the world. But everyone else, USA. Yeah, we gotta rub it in everyone's face and then go back to fighting once the Olympics gets over.
The red, white, and blue, baby. Danny, JB, man, I know it's been a while for us. Nice reunion. We've got 3 more of these. Much love to you guys, and for Stevie Lee and all of our wonderful local sponsors and the OG Man Cave boys, that being Hardball Harge, Big Mike, and the Coach Mo. We are out.